Hi everybody, today we are looking at how you can effectively manage your bank accounts, and that includes how to write a check, how to deposit money at the bank, and then also how to manage and track your spending so that you know how much money you actually have available to spend through a process called reconciliation. We start by talking about checks. Your check is a piece of paper that you can use to buy things. It is connected to your checking account, and when you give somebody a check that's properly filled out, they can bring it to their bank. Their bank can then take that information and transfer funds from your bank account to their bank account. And all checks basically have the same makeup. They may look different with the different artwork and stuff, but they all have the same general components. The first thing you'll see here on their check is the date. You must write the current date on the check. You cannot write a date in the future when you have money to spend. You have to write today's date on the check. So only write checks on days that you have money to actually cover the check. One other thing you'll see, and it's not on this check, but typically there are numbers in the upper right-hand corner, and those numbers are sequential, and that's to help you track your spending and to track when you use checks, so that no one is able to sort of steal a check or two from your account, from your checkbook, without you realizing that those checks are missing. Because if they are able to steal a check, they could write it and cash it and rob you of your money. So those numbers are there to help you keep track. Pay to the order of, this is who is receiving the check. So you're going to write the recipient's name here, whether it's a company or a person. And then you're going to write the amount of the check in two different ways. One is in numeric form in the box. The other is in word form here at this bottom line. On this box, what I would do is write this number to the far left, as far as you can, frankly, because there's enough space in here that somebody could put a 1 in there and change it from 815 to 1815. And there's enough space in here where they wrote 8 that they might be able to squeeze 18 and $15.15, and that would rob you basically of $10. So write the number to the far left in numeric form. If you don't fill the full box, then just take a line after the last number and just write a line, horizontal line, right through the rest of the box. Take up all the space so that no one can manipulate your check. Then you're going to write it in word form, in this case 8, and you're going to put the cents in this format. The number of cents / 100, and then again take a line and go all the way across horizontally through the rest of the space. Memo is an option. Memo is just there to remind you of why you wrote the check. So if you write a check to one of your friends and it's because you're covering the costs of a party that you had, then you can just put party with friends or something like that. Or if your parents are writing checks to school because they want to get a parking permit for you and they want to pay for your class dues, then they might have to write two different checks. Both checks are going to school, so then the memo line, they'll put this check, they'll put parking fees, and then the other check they might put student dues, just so they know what those checks were for. It's not necessary, it's just something you can choose to do. But one thing that is absolutely required is your signature. You must sign your every check. If you don't sign it, it's not valid. Also, please make sure you fill your checks out in pen rather than pencil. For the obvious reason that you can't erase pen. If for some reason you make a mistake on a check, it's okay. Just write void, V-O-I-D, in huge letters across the entire check, void, and that will cancel the check so that no one can use it against your will. Or write void and then rip it up. Just be super careful about that. When you want to deposit money, put money into your account, you're going to use what's called a deposit slip, and you will almost certainly be walking into a banking institution to do this. And that's where you're going to be handing over checks that you may have received or cash, and giving it to the teller, and then telling the teller if you want any money out. And so you're going to use what's known as a deposit slip. And again, while they may all look a little different depending on what bank you use, they all basically follow the same process. In this case, you put the date, put your name, put your account number, and then this little section here to the right is where you're going to list any cash you've received and any checks that you have to deposit. In this case, I have two checks, a $50 check from Bill and a $25 check from Jean. So I'll put the check number from Bill, check 501 here, and the amount for that check, $50.00. This helps the teller be able to match up the checks I'm giving them with what I'm telling them they're actually receiving, so they can confirm that these numbers are all correct. Then I got Jean's check, 1133, for $25.00. I add up all my checks and cash. That's my subtotal. That's how much money I'm putting into my account. So I'm putting $75 in. But here, I want to take some money out. I want to make a withdrawal. So if I'm taking cash out, that's where this less cash line comes in. And so I'm taking 20 out. So the net increase in my account is $55. And so you'll fill this form out. You'll hand all of your checks and cash to the teller. They'll double check that you're correct. Put it in the computer, and off you go. When it comes to managing your account, you're going to want to keep an accurate register or a track of every single transaction that you make, whether it's writing a check, taking money out at the ATM, or using your debit card. You need to know how much your transactions were, when you did them, and then keep track of how much money is left for you to spend. At the end of the month, you're going to want to do what's called a reconciliation, where you're going to double check to make sure that how much you think you have available to spend is matched with what the bank thinks that you have available to spend. Because if you don't have those connected and balanced, it's possible that you'll end up spending money you don't have. You'll end up bouncing a check, and you're going to end up paying a very, very high fee because you made a mistake. If you do find differences that you can't figure out and you can't understand why there's a discrepancy, then please contact your bank and work with them to try and figure out what's going on there so that everyone's clear on how much money you have in your account. The register is relatively easy to track, and what you will do is keep what's known as a running balance. That's just telling us how much money you still have left available to spend. It's possible that you can write a check to somebody and they're not going to cash it for a few days or weeks. And if you don't have this in your register, you could end up actually spending that same amount of money twice because you're expecting it to be cashed and it's not cashed yet. So you got to be careful. The way to fill out a register is simple. You're going to put, if you write a check, you're going to write the check number, the date, who received it, and then you've got two columns. The debit column, which is subtracting money from your account, that's when you're spending, or the credit column, which is adding to your account, and that's when you're receiving money from somebody else. And you're going to do a little bit of math to keep a balance, which is the far right column. That's how much money is left for you to spend. In this case, I wrote a check number 101 to Speedway Gas on the 6th of November in order to buy gas. I spent $16.90. That goes in the debit column because it's a negative number. It's taking away from my account. And I would subtract the amount of the check from my previous balance, and I get $148.26. That's how much money is left in my account that I'm able to spend. Now, if I have another check to Dr. James on the 6th of November and I got a paycheck deposited on the 7th of November, then those transactions should also be put in my register. So what that would look like is this. I would say check 102. No, I didn't tell you it was check 102, but it was the next check. So sequentially, it would be check 102. Went to Dr. James for $52. That's a negative. So I subtract the $52 from my previous balance of $148.26. That says I have $96.26 left to spend. Then I got a paycheck on the 7th of November. Now that's to me. That's money added to my account. So that goes into the credit or plus column. And I added $301.75 to my previous balance. And so now I have $398.01 available to me to spend. Now let's pretend that I have two more checks, one to Barnes & Noble and to Old Navy, and I've made a withdrawal from my ATM of $20. What I'd like you to do is take a second, pause the video in just a moment, and see if you can write out what the transactions would look like in the check register, just to make sure you understand the process. And then when you're done with that, go ahead and press play again and see if you got it correct. If you did the practice, your register should look something like this. Check 103 went to Barnes & Noble for $24.98. That's a negative, so it goes in the debit column. Old Navy check 104, that was the next check in sequence. That was for $32.18, also a debit. I'm taking away from my account. And my ATM withdrawal also, because it's a withdrawal, taking money out goes in the debit column. And so I would subtract each of these amounts from the previous total. So $24.98 was subtracted from my previous total, and then the Old Navy went from my previous total, and the ATM withdrawal went from my previous total. So now My running balance says I have $320.85 available in my account to spend. At the end of the month, I'm going to want to go ahead and reconcile my account by looking at what's known as the bank statement. The bank will send me a report of all the activity that they've seen between two dates. And I'm going to take that report and compare it to my register to make sure that the bank agrees with me on how much money is available in my account. And the reason we have to do this is because there may have been other transactions that have occurred since the bank printed the bank statement. And so we're just going to double check that if the bank were aware of all of the transactions that I have conducted, would they come to the same balance that I have in my register? In order to reconcile my account, I'll need to take my bank statement and my check register and have them essentially side by side. And we're going to fill out essentially a worksheet, which is what you see here on the left. We're going to take the ending balance on my statement. So I look at my bank statement down here. I see that the bank thinks I have $313.26. Now that doesn't match what I have in my register, but that's okay for now. So I would enter this $313.26 in this first line on my worksheet. And then I'm going to be looking for any credits and any debits that the bank doesn't know about yet, at least that the bank hasn't reported in the statement. So what I'll do is compare the statement to my register and cross out all of the activity that they have included in the statement. So I go to the first thing here. I see that check 101 was $16.90. I wrote a check 101 for $16.90. So that those appear on both the statement and the register, so I can go ahead and cross this out. And I see a check to Dr. James, 102 for $52 on the 6th of November. That matches what I have here in my registry or register, so I can go ahead and strike that out. My paycheck is there, 301.75. Yep, that's correct. So I'm going to go ahead and strike that as well. And in fact, if I keep going through this process, I'll see that check 103 is for the correct amount, 104 is for the correct amount, the ATM withdrawal is for the correct amount on the correct date, and the check to Walmart is also correct. So all of these items are in both the register and the bank statement. So what I've got left with, there's 3 transactions that do not appear in the statement. And so I look and see the paycheck and the allowance deposit are money coming in. Those are credits. So I have $165 in my account that do not appear in the bank statement. So I will take all those credits, $165, put them in line 2 of this worksheet, and add that to the ending balance from the bank statement. So now it says I have $478.26. Now that does not match my register, but that again is okay because I also have a $45 check that they have not included yet. So any debits that have occurred in my register but do not appear in the bank statement should also be added up and subtracted from this line 3 in the worksheet. So in this case, I have a $45 check, so I'll put $45 down. Not $45, sorry, $100 to Johnston Photo. I can't read. And I subtract the 2. And that says the bank now thinks that I should have $378.26, and that number does, in fact, match my register, so I'm in good shape. That means my accounts are balanced or reconciled. If those 2 numbers do not equal each other by the time you're done with the worksheet, then first thing you should do is double check your math in your registry. You could make a mistake in your register and that will throw you off. So just double check that you're adding and subtracting correctly. And then if that doesn't help solve the problem, then that might be time to contact the bank and see if you can figure out what the issue may be. But never assume that everything is good if the line 5 of your reconciliation does not equal your running balance in your register. If those 2 things are not equal, you do have a problem. But if they're equal, you're in great shape and you're ready to start the next month. And you'll be in better shape and less likely to overdraw your account or bounce a check in the future. So if you have questions, come see me. Otherwise, I will see you in class next time.